Cassidy Whiskey, I'd like to talk to you about B-movies. Not that kind of B-movie, not the unfunny one, the kind of cool, interesting to talk about kind. In the before times, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and so on, when people would actually go to a movie theater to watch a movie, there was a thing called a B-movie. You'd go and see a double feature.
We had a Rick Dalton double feature in our screening room last night.
Oh, well, that's both flattering and embarrassing. What'd you see?
35 millimeter prints of Tanner and the 14 Fists of McCluskey.
You'd go and see, you know, on one side there's Jaws, right? And on the other side there's, I don't know, some monster MASH movie, right? It's just something kind of silly, low budget, different. It's a very interesting thing to talk about. There's a lot of different aspects to B-movies, and I'd just like to sort of ramble at the camera to you for a little bit about B-movies. The first thing I'd like to talk about is the tendency for there to be horror B-movies. You don't have to stick to conventions when you're making a B-movie. There's certain things that just wouldn't fly with a regular movie. Nobody's gonna go see a movie that's like super banned. Fun story, Texas Chainsaw Massacre was banned for a little bit in some countries. So when you would purposely go to see it in a country where it wasn't banned, you know, it was really awkward. You're purposely going to go see something that's kind of illegal in other places in a big room with a bunch of other people. Shady stuff. This was also back at the time when there would be pornography theaters, adult movies, and so on. Same deal there. So I think I would attribute the prevalence of horror movies in B-movies to less restrictions. People don't really pay attention to the Hays Code when your movie is going to have like a run of 3 weeks in 5 local theaters in the middle of Kentucky, you know? So that's my first little point. We had a lot of horror movies back then. Like Evil Dead. I mean, you watch Evil Dead now, it's not scary. It's funny. It's really funny. I love all the cute little puppets. I love in Army of Darkness the skeletons. They're so goofy. I love the dance, the stop motion dance that the girlfriend does in Evil Dead 2. It's goofy, it's really fun, it's campy, it's good, it's good stuff. I love stuff like that. Now, you know, you make an Evil Dead movie and it's a bit more serious and tonal and so on. And I think a lot of people are still trying to capture that. I think Resident Evil 7 captured it really well, but that's not a movie, so I'm not going to talk about it. There's a move to higher budget movies. No one wants to pick the middle option anymore because there's not as much return. Why invest in a sort of middling movie when you could chuck your money behind a Marvel movie that you know is going to succeed? It's just unnecessary risk for lower returns. So you just couldn't make a movie like Space Chimps, with cancel culture how it is. You couldn't make a movie like Space Chimps today with the capitalist tendency to favor high returns by leaving behind middling return markets, slowly pushing all movies to be indie movies or Marvel shit. That's just how it is. It's because of investors. It's because you have to pitch your movie to get money. Nobody's going to invest in something that isn't an adaptation or a sequel. And so this inevitably pushes out all the people in the middle. There's the big budget blockbusters and AAA movies, and then there's the B movies. And there's indie movies too. Indie movies are sort of their own thing. They're gonna get made whether it's profitable or not. So you can chuck some money behind them. Be an angel investor, you know? Like, at worst, you're out $2,000 if the movie flops. But this means that there's so many more movies that are super serious, you know? Like, everybody went and watched Tenet in theaters. If you didn't watch Tenet in the theaters, if you didn't get the experience of Tenet, then you didn't watch Tenet. You had to go and watch it in, like, IMAX, big numbers, or whatever, you know?
See, girly, you may think you got me all figured out, but there's one thing you didn't account for. My numbers are bigger than yours.
Instead of lots of okay movies, we're just getting a lot of, I'm not gonna say good movies, because some of them are really bad, but we're just getting a lot of, we're getting a lot of okay movies. We've just looped back. We're just getting less movies that are more expensive that are generally the same quality. This is happening in video games as well. I know I said I wouldn't talk about it, but look at like Harry Potter, right? A decade ago, Harry Potter was this thing that like they would make a tie-in game for all the movies. And there'd be like all the Lego Harry Potter games, and there'd be all these Harry Potter adaptations and so on. Harry Potter Kart, you know. Now, we don't get that. Nobody's making tie-in games, at least not that people actually care about. Maybe it's just because I'm not in preschool anymore. Maybe over at the local public school, they're all talking about the newest Turning Red tie-in game, but I heavily doubt it. Right now, we've got a Harry Potter game coming out that's one of these big budget things that everybody's got to be there for, and everybody's got to have an opinion on it. Do you support the game? Everybody's gotta have their little opinion about it. Everyone's gotta go to the experience of the Harry Potter game.
The value, how do you say the value of a film that's like a theme park film, for example, the Marvel type pictures, where the theaters become amusement parks. That's a different experience, and it's not even. I was saying earlier, it's not cinema; it's something else.
It's no longer just a thing that got pushed out. There's not 50 Harry Potter games that are coming out one a year. There's just one really big one. And it's a safer investment. You could say that that's better. There's not much artistic value to the Harry Potter tie-in games. Anything that's there that you could analyze is just because it's a Harry Potter tie-in game and it's related to a book series. Of course, there's going to be a story if you base it on the most popular book series of all time. No, that's the Da Vinci Code, right? John Wick was not a sequel or an adaptation. It was something that a guy came out with really suddenly and impressed everybody. And that's like cool, but that's pretty much the only exception to this little rule. After that, it's any movie that's done the same, something like Bullet Train, Nobody, John Wick 2, John Wick 3. Those have just been by the same dude, you know? John Wick could be pitched to investors because A, it was actually pretty low budget for what it was, and B, it was the revival movie for Keanu Reeves. Who doesn't want a Keanu Reeves revival movie? Here's a quick story about McDonald's that I was told by my multimedia teacher. A consumer wants to get the middle size of a product. Before, there used to be 3 sizes. There was the little tiny cheeseburger, there was the Quarter Pounder, and the Big Mac.
Royale with cheese.
Royale with cheese. Consumers would go for this middling option. You know, they'd go for the Quarter Pounder. It was not too much, it wasn't too little. It was the price in the middle, it was an amount of food in the middle. It worked. But McDonald's wanted more, so they moved where the middle was. They introduced their new Angus patties and their gourmet and so on, and they changed the cheeseburger to be part of their penny pinchers menu. It's just $1. It's not real food. It's something you buy your kid on a road trip. So now the options are Quarter Pounder as the small option, Big Macs as the medium option, and Angus burgers as the big option. They actually take a loss on Angus burgers or something. I don't know if I believe that, but that's what I was told. I can't imagine it costs that much. But anyways, apparently they take a loss on the Angus, but they make tons of money on the Big Macs, which everybody buys now instead of Quarter Pounders. I want to talk about another genre of B-movies, something I've seen that's kind of just exclusive to that. I like movies where a dude dies and then, like, he's a ghost. So for example, there's a Bill Cosby one called Ghost Dad, where he plays like a sassy dad who like uses his new ghost powers to take care of his kids.
Now, you don't try to threaten me! Bill Cosby.
Like, oh, you're flirting with my daughter, and he goes in the phone and he beats him up, or stuff like that. One called Ghost Town with Ricky Gervais. It's not very good.
Kidding me? Hi.
I'm gonna get the next one.
Don't be silly. Get in here. How do the ladies resist that rap ears?
Probably because it's got Ricky Gervais in it.
Castidias.
Who you are is a little bit of a jerk.
Shoes. Your shoes are comfortable.
The only other one that comes to mind, even though I know there's more, I know I've seen more, but the only other one that comes to mind is the Smosh Ghostmates movie. Do you guys remember the Smosh Ghostmates movie? I remember the Smosh Ghostmates movie.
Hi, I'm Eddie, and I'm dead.
Ta-da! I'm a ghost.
Hi, I'm editing, I'm sorry. I'm fucking cackling over the delivery of, I'm a ghost. What the fuck? I could not conceive of a sillier performance for a sillier movie. I'm gobsmacked. I'm in awe. I'm flabbergasted. Smosh made this movie. What's the guy's name? Ian and Anthony. Ian dies in like a comically comedic way. Like the most elaborate death ever. He like slips on some wine and he gets his tie stuck in the door, and then he tries to pull out his belt for some reason, which makes his pants fall down. And so everybody, like, then he like slips on the wine that's spilt everywhere, and he like slips on the bottle and it rolls around, and he fucking like hangs himself on this door, and it's like the funniest way to die. Like everybody thinks he got drunk and then jacked himself off to death. It's silly. And then Anthony Padilla's character moves in.
My name's Anthony Padilla, and today I'll be spending a day with
He's like, oh, can't wait to live in this house, but there's a ghost, and only Anthony can see him. And in order to get rid of the ghost, he needs to finish his, like, unfinished business. And that's what the rest of the movie is. Anthony Padilla failing at romance with a girl while also trying to help the other Smosh guy, the less memorable Smosh guy, finish his unfinished business so he can go to heaven. I'm pretty sure T-Pain's in it as well. I think T-Pain goes to heaven in that movie. I want to talk about Invisible Mum. This was another one of these B movies. At my grandma's house, she had a cabinet of these sort of old dollar movies. And one of them was Invisible Mum 2. And in it, the Invisible Mum goes to like a machine and she gets turned invisible. And it's strange. She doesn't really know how to deal with it. It's like this is her first time. So what I figured was, it's like one of those franchises where each movie has a different main character. Like each movie we follow a different Invisible Mum. And she like stops a crime or something is the plot. I googled it. No. It's the same actress for the Invisible Mum in both movies. So what happened in the first movie? I mean, I could watch it to find out, but that's infinitely less entertaining than speculating. Apparently in the first one, she drinks a potion instead of, like, getting into an invisible machine. So that's weird. It's like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing. The point of this video isn't for me to be pretentious and talk about some shit I know about B movies. I just want to speculate about this with you. This isn't me showing off my big brain. This is us having a connective moment together. You and me. We're bonding. And I love you for it. Another movie I absolutely love is Vin Diesel as the Pacifier.
Navy SEAL Shane Wolf has seen action in every corner of the globe.
Somalia.
I've directed rescue missions.
Serbia.
I've directed stealth air attacks.
Bosnia.
I've choreographed amphibious landings all around the world.
But for his next assignment, he's going to the one place his skills mean nothing.
Suburbia.
Oh, you gotta be kidding.
I don't even know what to say about this. I've just written in my notes the Pacifier with the implication that I'll come up with something fun to say about it. What can I say about the Pacifier? It's Vin Diesel. Did you know Vin Diesel plays Groot? You know, they pay him like $10 million for him to say, I am Groot in various... Why? Why does he... Why? Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson are like archetypical B-movie stars, you know? They play pretty much the same character in every movie they're in. Do you remember Skyscraper? Strange. Freaky Friday was an old movie. The only thing I really remember about it was skiing, and there's a bit where I can only assume her name is Freaky, takes like some lunch to a park and it's in a big brown paper bag. There's something so aesthetic about that. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I want to roll my food up into a big brown paper bag. Then they made a reboot of it with Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis. That's the one that I obviously grew up on. It's got this punk rock aesthetic in all its music. It's like the archetypical B-movie. It's great. That movie fucks so hard.
On and on and on.
You know, I stopped paying attention for 5 seconds and they made a third one. And it's a musical. Maybe this is the nostalgia talking. Maybe if I had seen all 3 versions when I was 8 years old, I would say, oh man, the musical Freaky Friday, that slaps. But I'm not gonna say that. It's bad. It's really bad. It's 2 actresses I don't really know, and they sing, and the plot moves at a molasses pace. It's been a while since I watched it, so I can't bring up any like specific examples, but it was terrible. I just couldn't wait for it to end. I like that as a society we've sort of agreed on what a diner looks like. I've never seen a diner look like this. Maybe it's an American thing, but I mean, it can't, like, every movie with a diner, they all look like this. And it's odd, right? That this look hasn't changed, so I can only assume that what's happening is we've all agreed on what a diner looks like, and so whenever we're building a diner set, we don't build, like, you know, a McDonald's. We build this exact same 80s, 90s, Quentin Tarantino aesthetic diner.
I love you, pumpkin.
I love you, honey bunny.
Everybody be cool, this is a robbery!
Any of you fucking pricks move! And I'll execute every motherfucking last one of you!
That's my assumption, though. I'm sure if I went to America, I could find a diner. But I just have to believe that every time I watch like a movie set in the 2020s or the 2010s where they go to one of these diners, that they're just going to one of those like 80s LARP places. You know the ones I'm talking about? Where you go in and they're playing like Elvis on the radio or something and everything's set up like an 80s place and they're like, oh, you want a milkshake? And you're like, yeah, I'll have a milkshake, and they're in one of those really curvy glasses. You know the type, right?
But I'd really like you to come have a milkshake with me. But before you do, I'd like you to remember how much you enjoy Pulp Fiction.
A big trope of old movies that's not specific to B-movies, but I'm gonna pin it on B-movies, is super long credits. It's so hard to watch a movie made before, you know, 2013, because you'll be watching like First Wives Club and you've got to sit through like 3 minutes of this thing. People criticize The Room for constantly cutting to shots of San Francisco, but this is so much worse. This is so much worse, guys. I don't want to wait for 2 minutes at the start of every movie for the movie to start. Like, it's like a loading bar. I don't know, is it like, because when people used to go to theaters, you'd have intermissions and so on, and maybe it's a continuation of that. Maybe the idea is, oh, what if people come late? We pad it out with the trailers, we pad it out with the ads, now let's pad it out with 2 minutes of like little cards with actors' names on it and there's music playing and they switch out the cards every once. It's so hard to watch. I do think that people should be credited. You know, nobody stays till the end of the credits. I think the whole like Marvel after credits scene thing is kind of a really cancerous relationship to have with a film. I don't know how to justify that. I can't give you my rubric. I can only tell you the vibes that I feel, and the vibes are that that's a weird relationship to have with a movie. I've seen places that, like cinemas, that will put up like a big A4 piece of paper, you know, saying Endgame doesn't have a post-credit scene to remind people and stuff like that. I think that's weird. I'm one of the few remaining defenders of Matrix Resurrections. The rest were lost in the flood. That movie has an after-credit scene. I was watching it with my friend Chelsea. I knew it had an after-credit scene. I'd seen it talked about somewhere else, and the credits were super long. I said, no, Chelsea, wait, we can't leave yet. There's an after-credit scene. I don't think Chelsea enjoyed the movie as much as I did, but I enjoyed the movie a lot. It's not my favorite Matrix movie, but it's a good movie. It's a really good movie. So we wait for 5 minutes, something like that. It felt like forever for the credits to be over. The Matrix after credits scene was like 5 seconds long, and it's a cat joke. They say something like, oh, if we made a Matrix for cats, it would be the Cat Tricks. And Chelsea groaned and said, why not say Meow Tricks? So yeah, big defender of Matrix Resurrections, but that after credits scene, fuck me slowly with a chainsaw. And now this is the part of the video where I'm going to be really mean to Marvel. I'm going to read out a quote. Don Cheadle asked Marvel what the additional 5 movies would be, to which Marvel said, it's going to be these Avengers, and this is what it is, so you have to say yes or no. Cheadle asked what the trajectory of his character would be, to which Marvel responded, we don't know any of that, but this is what it is, so you've got an hour. I mean, it's a bit unfair. It's a bit... Marvel isn't a person. Marvel is not a person who can speak to Don Cheadle. A person said this. A person said this to him, and that person is limited by constraints. That person doesn't know what's happening in the whole company. But, I mean, to be fair, it was probably somebody important, right? It's not like some intern. It's not like some microphone boy. Star Sam Worthington, who plays lead character Jake Sully, told Collider about Cameron's 1.5 script. Jim gave us a script of 1.5 that he wrote that shows the time between Avatar and Avatar Way of Water, and he wrote a full script. He said, look, read this. We'll fill in the blanks of what Jake's been doing. I said, when do we shoot this one? Because this one's amazing. He goes, no, that's just something I wrote over the past year to give you his backstory. Comparison. There's just such a difference between... I haven't seen either Avatar movie, by the way. I haven't seen either of them. I will at some point. I mean, I've got to, right? But I haven't seen either of them. But just from these quotes that I've read to you, there's such a difference in the way that Marvel and James Cameron treat filmmaking. They treat the craft incredibly different. Marvel, to me, doesn't feel like a theater director who's passionate about his project, who wants you to do your best. It feels like a manager at a factory for canned tuna. Tarantino and Anthony Mackie, who played Don Cheadle's character in Marvel. So, a bit of a holistic thing going on here. Tarantino and Mackie both talked about the modern movie star. There's no John Waynes anymore, there's no Clint Eastwoods. To keep this on track with the B-movie theme, some good B-movie stars would be Bruce Campbell from Evil Dead, I already mentioned, and Danny Trejo, who plays a character tying the Spy Kids universe into the Machete movie, which was a part of Tarantino's Grindhouse double feature and purposely evocative of B-movies.
Don't look anywhere.
Isn't that just great? Doesn't that just make you smile? Knowing that in Spy Kids canon, their uncle is just an action movie from another franchise. Watching Death Proof or Kill Bill and knowing that Spy Kids is happening just off screen. That's good. I like that. That makes me grin. Makes me giggle. It used to be that you'd go watch the new Clint Eastwood flick. My hand's shaking. It used to be that you'd go and watch the new Clint Eastwood flick or the new John Wayne joint, you know? But you just don't really do that anymore. Chris Evans, you don't go and see the new Chris Evans movie, you go see the new Captain America movie.
Eat shit.
What?
How's that?
No.
Fat.
Do not use that word in front of my son.
Eat shit.
If I
Eat
wasn't
shit.
practicing,
Eat shit.
I would slap that smug smile.
Definitely eat shit. Eat shit.
I don't necessarily think that this is a flaw in the same way that Quentin Tarantino does. He's very into the culture of film.
Bonafide spastic fucking foot weirdo Quentin Tarantino is back. But more importantly, this is Tarantino's most foot-filled movie yet. You get Margot Robbie feet, you get Dakota Fanning feet, young feet, old feet, Manson girl feet. There's so many fucking feet. Oh, there's also some story about Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt's washed-up movie careers intersecting with Sharon Tate and the Manson family. Do we see Sharon Tate's feet? You fucking bet we do!
Before we start, real quick, I just want to mention, Quentin Tarantino still shoots on film, right?
Yes.
He's not a digital guy.
Yeah.
How many feet of film do you think you shot?
Oh my god!
I can see why it would be upsetting for him to see an age of film that he bases all of his work on just fade away, but I think it's actually kind of similar to character actors. Character actors, like beloved character actress of stage, film, and television Margot Martindale, and if we're being liberal with the definition, then Jack Black.
Oh, yes, my dear man. More beans. Granny, ew! Oh, please.
This summer, America's favorite obese family is back.
Ew, gross! You're just mad because I'm skinny. I'm not.
Jeff Portnoy. Jeff Portnoy. Jeff Portnoy. And Jeff Portnoy are The Fatties, Part 2.
As a continuation of Comedia de latte. If that sounded like that sentence didn't make grammatical sense, it was because it was a title for my next slide. I don't have a slideshow. That's the sound of the slide moving in my little projector. Commedia dell'arte was an Italian theater tradition that you can Google. I'm not your teacher. I'm not explaining anything to you. Google it. I'm sorry. I love you. Commedia dell'arte had characters that people were familiar with that would come back time and time again. Sort of like a sitcom. They would come into town, they would do their little improv, they would make sure to include elements that the town specifically knows. If there was a recent scandal, they would mention the scandal or make a joke about it or make a bit about it. If there was a famine, they would talk about how your child died of starvation because you just didn't get enough wheat. You coward of a farmer. You yelly-bellied seed sower, you. I used to get told, bedtime stories. Speaking of bedtime stories, add Adam Sandler to the list of B-movie stars that I hate with Ricky Gervais in it. I used to be told bedtime stories. I used to have this this little wooden table that came with two little wooden chairs and had wobbly legs, so you could kind of imagine it walking. And I would get told bedtime stories about this table, about it talking, about it being a menace.
Hello, how are you?
Hello. So do you remember any talking table stories?
I don't know. I did have a bit of a think. I went and made a cup of coffee and I was trying to think of some stories, and all I can vaguely remember is, he would sneak to school with you. I think was there one where you dropped your pencil under the desk and he started talking to you? I can't remember. The other thing that I remembered was, I can remember the 3 little pigs and the 5 little pigs and Blue Man, and I can remember the Thomas the Tank Engine story I made up about you with your pancake flipper.
The spatula, yes.
Spatula, yes, that's right, an unmarried cooking utensil.
I don't remember many of the stories. Generally, it was just sort of like, oh, the talking table, he's, spilt rice all over the floor, or he's won't go to bed on time, stuff like that, right? And then I would come in and I'd save the day because I was the main character of the bedtime stories. That's Commedia dell'arte, right? This is one character in an arrangement of bedtime stories, sometimes even interacting with other characters, like the 3 little pigs from the story with the wolf, or Rogue Trooper from the 2000 AD comic. You know, the talking table would interact with other sorts of characters. Thomas the Tank Engine, there's another one. That's Comedia dell'arte, right? A form of bedtime story. If that's Comedia dell'arte, then so is Marvel movies, right? It's probably more akin to comic books. The movies are replicating that, so I'm gonna say the movies. We've got this cast of fictional characters that come around over and over again. True Comedia dell'arte, they would switch actors. Anybody could be anything. We wouldn't be stuck with one dude playing the same character over and over again. But, it's not the way it goes. It's a film. It's like professional Comedia dell'arte. And I just think that's kind of neat, you know? We've reinvented the same concept over and over again. The idea of characters from different places interacting. Marvel movies and superhero comic books and Comedia dell'arte, character actors, bedtime stories. We as people and artists just come around to the same idea over and over again. I think that's a cute little observation. Star Wars deliberately evoked the aesthetics of B-movies. I would say something like, especially with its use of the Wilhelm scream, you know, that famous sound effect. But, no. It was not really a thing before Star Wars. But now it is a thing, and it's associated with B-movies. And that's kind of because Star Wars had those B-movie aesthetics. The first Star Wars movie, and by that I mean the fourth one, it has the vibes. It has the vibes of a B-movie. It has the vibes of this one-off little space adventure. It's neat, you know? There's not really an overarching plot with the trilogy in the way that there is in the other ones. And there hasn't really been another Star Wars movie that's that self-contained. Unless you count something like Rogue One, which ended up getting a TV show, or Solo, which ended up having a cliffhanger ending. All the other movies ended up being like, we're tying it into a larger story. When you watch the second, and by that I mean the fifth Star Wars movie, you know that there's going to be a third, and by that you mean the sixth. With 1, 2, and 3, there's... I know that's so confusing, I'm sorry. With the prequels, there's not even like the guise of this being a self-contained story. All of them tie into each other. But with the original trilogy, you watch the first movie, you're like, hell yeah, this is great. Some random farmer, his family gets killed, he gets a cool sword, him and an old guy and 2 weird robots and this giant bear monster and this cool, like, rogue that's, like, evocative of, like, the Clint Eastwood and John Wayne kind type guys. They roll up into their crummy little ship and they misuse the word parsecs. It's great! And they go to this space station and they get kidnapped and they're trying to break themselves out and they end up saving a princess and then they break out and then they come back with a big army and they blow it up and it blows up and you're like, whoa, cool! That was so fun! I just went on an adventure! And there was no expectation of, oh, well, I can't wait to, you know, find out who this guy's dad is, right? I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining about Star Wars. The original trilogy is great. I'm not saying it's bad that it was a trilogy. I'm glad that we got more and we got a really good continuation of this story. But, Star Wars is B-movie aesthetics. This is going to come up later, but, I just want to mention it now. There's a lot of misconceptions that Star Wars is about Nazis or something. Star Wars is about the Vietnam War. The Empire is America, the invaders. Rebels are the Viet Cong. George Lucas was heavily anti-war. It's important to note that. I hate Nazis as much as the next person, but Star Wars is not a Nazi punch. You know, it is a Nazi punching movie? Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones is great. We've got the B-movie aesthetics, these single self-contained adventures. The women that don't come back at all have like mysterious ties to Indiana Jones and slap him, and that's great. That's good stuff. And to tick the last box on the little page of things that make something a B-movie, punching Nazis.
Nazis. I hate these guys.
Indiana Jones 1 and 3 have some of the best Jewish vengeance stuff this side of Inglourious Bastards. It's great. Nazis get shoved off cliffs, they get punched in the face, they get shoved out of planes, they get pushed into giant rotor blades and chopped up, they get shoved under a tank, and I think I already mentioned this, but pushed off cliffs and they fall in big holes, and it's great! I love punching Nazis! Do you hear that? Huh, I wonder what that sound is. Oh well, might as well continue the video. Another really important aspect of the B-movie is the punching Nazis aspect. It's great. Django does it. Indiana Jones, Django, and of course, fuck you! Wolfenstein!
I'm gonna ask you one question. You are gonna answer that question in a way I find satisfactory, and if you do not, I will saw your head off with this here appliance, you hear me? So here it comes. Where are you people keeping the captured resistance fighters?
Zur Hölle mit dir und deinem verdammten Widerstand!
Wolfenstein is so good, you guys. Okay, so apart from just being like the platonic ideal of a shooter, the fine-tunedness of Doom, the art direction is insane. It's got this vibe of B-movies that's just brilliant, and there's this tendency when you're making a movie about some sort of rebellion or revolution that you find a way to moralize them. You go, oh, these guys are cool because they're like punching Nazis, but you know, they also do a bad thing. Like they don't take prisoners. Something like that. Fuck that. Wolfenstein doesn't moralize. Your rebellion is ontologically good and your enemies are ontologically bad because they're fucking Nazis. There's a scene where you do like 4 shots of moonshine and then pass the fuck out while talking to Horton Boone, a Christian preaching, whiskey drinking Marxist Leninist. It's great!
Respect your ambition, but there's nothing can be done no more. The world has sank into the crapper, and all we can do now is drink this whiskey and watch the vortex suck it all down.
Didn't expect your belly to be quite so yellow.
We've been fighting for a revolution since long before them Nazis came here. We were the first to start build a civil rights movement to advocate equality for everyone. You know the concept of civil rights, Terror Belly? No, you don't. You're just a jarhead, ain't you?
Buddy, I laid my life on the line for freedom, justice, and the American way, while you and your bohemian friends were passing out Bolshevik propaganda and opposing the draft on every street corner. What good is your fucking equality? You can't muster the backbone to stick up for your people while the coyote's scratching at your front door.
We stood up against the imperialist war machine in the United States of America and the greedy money men of Wall Street who was itching to send the children of the proletariat off to die in foreign lands so that they could be filling their coffers. It weren't their sons bleeding on the beaches. No, they draft people like you for their dirty work while they was watching the dollars roll in. You're the pawn, the patsy of cantankerous men in marble mansions. Well, I'll see through that shit. Decided not to be a party to it.
Yet here you are, guns in hand, shooting Nazis, just like me. Difference is you come late to the party. Perhaps your kind had gotten their asses in gear, we'd have won the war.
Don't spill that shit on the table, or they'll lead right through it.
This'll get you drunk, Terror Belly, you upstanding lackey of the establishment cheat.
Listen, pal, I ain't got time for your horse shit. You gotta make the call. Give up and die, or step the fuck up.
I ain't wanting to argue with you, Terror Belly. Too tired of fighting.
You tired? Man, fuck you. I got kids on the way. And I'll be damned if I'm gonna raise them in a world run by these Nazi assholes. So what's it gonna be? You hillbilly, degenerate moonshiner, Bolshevik cowards, goddamn traitors.
Wolfenstein has a bit where you talk to a black woman who tells you that your idea of white America is completely skewed and biased, and then she breastfeeds. I'm not saying that I want to see breastfeeding, but how fucking metal is that? What other game would show you a strong, independent black woman say, "Fuck you, BJ, you main character, asshole. You don't know what the fuck's going on. You've got the rosiest tinted glasses," and then feeds her baby. It's brilliant. Everyone in Wolfenstein is diverse at the point where it's like powerful and purposeful and used really well, and BJ, the main character, he's Jewish. He's like the stereotypical Aryan looking guy. He's a white blonde man with blue eyes, but he's Jewish. It says so much about so many things. It talks about the stupidity of Nazi ideology, the inherent worthlessness of that fascist dreck. It talks about finding your Jewish identity. It talks about all BJ's emotions, about his wife, about his kids. It talks about white America. It talks about black liberation. It's great. It's so good. See, on the one hand, I want to talk to you all about how Wolfenstein is the epitome of B-movie brilliance. But on the other hand, I don't want to spoiler it for you. So, you will play Wolfenstein. You will. You're going to play Wolfenstein. There is a part where you go to the moon to fight the moon Nazis. And when you get there, your character says,
Okay, you put a Nazi on the moon. Fuck you, moon.
You go to America so that you can put a nuclear bomb in a Nazi command center, and you overhear the Nazis making fun of the KKK.
You are witnessing a new dawn for America. You have a choice in this new world, because the time will come when, how do you say, the wheat detaches from the chaff. Have you taken your German lessons? Oh, yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Good. You, how do you say thank you in German?
Oh, of course, sir. Let me see. It's,
Yes?
Dank.
Yes, out with it.
Dank you.
My God. Was that all right? No, that was terrible. You're butchering my beautiful language. It's Danke schön, verdammt. Say it.
Danke schön?
Incorrect. Danke schön.
Danke schön?
You meet Hitler, and he's a little fucking piss boy, peeing in a bucket and vomiting everywhere. It is 24/7 non-stop making fun of racist, fascist shitheads, and it's amazing.
Gottes Willen. Mein Führer, sind Sie denn ein Idiot? No, mein Führer, sind Sie ein verkleideter Schurke, ein Jude? Ein verräterischer Jude! No, mein Führer, I'm from Arizona.
Okay, I'm going to spoil one of my favorite bits from Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, okay? In B-movies, the wildest stuff can happen. Anything can go on. You're never gonna see these characters again. The movie's gonna end. No one's gonna be talking about it in 2 months. So you can do anything. In Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, you're dragged over, put on like an execution block in front of the Lincoln Memorial in America, and then this bad guy German woman gets a huge sword and then cuts your head off, and you survive. Fuck Nazis. They can cut your head off and you're BJ goddamn Blazkowicz and you're gonna survive that shit. They like grab your head before it like falls to the ground, and then like they pick it up with a drone, and they've got 7 seconds until you become brain dead, and they take you over and they like stitch your head onto like a Nazi super soldier test body. It's great. In Wolfenstein 1, you go into a coma for 14 years and the Nazis win the World War. You're still in a vegetative state. Nazis come in, kill everybody in there. You become so angry, you wake yourself up from a coma to kill those monsters. There's no moralizing here. There's no, oh, but BJ should think about what he's doing. There's only vroom vroom. I've got a chainsaw. It's so good. Wolfenstein is so good, okay? And it carries all of the aesthetics and the themes of a B-movie. It's brilliant. It's so layered and dense and complex. Wolfenstein is so good, guys. And that's not even talking about like the character study. Your main character has an internal monologue that portrays him and all of his sympathies, and it's brilliant. It's writing on the level of Breaking Bad and BoJack, and it's a silly video game about shooting Nazis in the head with big guns. Django Unchained is a B-movie. It's very evocative of, you know, old westerns. It's got its own little theme song. It feels almost episodic. You know, episode 1, let's get this guy out of jail. Episode 2, let's do this first bounty. Episode 3, it's winter. Let's do some bounties for the winter. Episode 4, the big season finale or something like that, you know? Everything's tied up and characters die and it's so cool. He gets all these cool one-liners.
I count 6 shots, nigga. I count 2 guns, nigga.
He's brilliant. Django is so good, and it carries these aesthetics of the B-movie. And it's all about making fun of racists, like the KKK and slavers. There's like that extended scene with that one guy from Knives Out and
we gotta make a lesson out of it. What none of us were strong enough to do. Maybe this might finally make you grow up.
This might be the best thing that could ever happen to you.
Thank you. My mother, ladies and gentlemen.
You entitled prick! Don't...
There's like that extended scene where that one guy from Knives Out and Jonah Hill are like struggling to put on their like KKK hoods, and one guy in the back is like, "Stop complaining! All I hear is criticize, criticize, criticize. My wife worked hard on this," and he leaves in an angry rage because they just don't appreciate his masks, and then they all get blown up by dynamite. It's great!
Thank you, shoe?
It's so great! I have a friend who did not enjoy the movie RRR, which is an Indian movie, which I won't count as a B movie, but it's about some Indian men fighting back against British colonialism. One of my friends did not really like this movie. They thought it was like too much action and stuff, like very little substance, but they hadn't watched it. It probably sounds like right now I'm the most consumer guy, you know? Oh man, this movie's got big guns and they blow up guys. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying a movie is good because it's got big explosions. If that was true, I would be talking about, I don't know, Top Gun, I guess. I'd be talking about Marvel and stuff. No, Django is good because they blow up the KKK. That specifically. RRR is good because they pick up a motorcycle and hit people with it. Or they do a drift with their car and then pull off like a carpet from the top, revealing it's full of cages of tigers, and then they all open at once and a dude jumps out holding 2 flaming torches and directs the tigers to go and bite the British. I mean, that's great. That's over the top in the best way because it's evocative of a bullshit B-movie. Why do B-movies attract left-wing public? I think it could be that working with a lower budget causes one to work with a proletarian work budget. You're much more connected to film as a worker. Disney isn't exactly connected to its proletarian origin. And Steven Spielberg has a noticeable shift in the construction of his movies after becoming the most loaded man in Hollywood. Another theory could just be lack of restrictions. Less corporate mandates means more artistry. And artists tend toward a personality matrix that opens themselves to leftism, if not liberalism. Marvel, though. Marvel is so neoliberal. Black Panther discourse. Man, I've seen a lot of people talk about Black Panther. I haven't seen it yet. I've seen every different race talk about it being good and every different race talk about it being bad. There's Black Panther discourse. It's neoliberal bullshit. It's American military propaganda. It's bad that as a society our political discourse on race is, for most people, discourse that requires that you go see the Marvel Black Panther movie. You know, Marvel is military propaganda. I'm not talking about like putting an ad for war bonds in the back of your comic book. I'm talking about taking tons of military money in exchange for painting a generally positive light on the American imperialist war machine.
We stood up against the imperialist war machine in the United States of America.
Instead of talking about how America paints over how bad the CIA has been for every country in Africa and South America, it's just sort of like, oh, you know, there's a few bad apples. Instead of talking about this discourse, instead of talking about how Marvel is brainwashing people, instead of talking about how filmmaking is not a craft, it's a business, we're instead discoursing about if the Infinity Cones ice cream store in Thor Love and Thunder is akin to making a Holocaust joke. What the fuck? Where are we as a society? There used to be indie movies, B movies, and big blockbuster movies. Now nobody makes B movies anymore. And I can't help but feel a bit sad about that. How many young filmmakers that with enough money and attention could have created masterpieces were just denied because their first movie ideas were B-movies, or something that wouldn't fit in a blockbuster model. How many people wanted to make a Freaky Friday, or a Parent Trap, or a Pacifier, or a Ghost Dad, and when they took their scripts to someone, there just wasn't enough return on investment. It was too big of an idea. Bill Cosby's Ghost Dad is too big of an idea to be an indie movie, and too small of an idea for a big blockbuster. I mean, I'd say you couldn't make Bill Cosby's Ghost Dad today, but I think we all know why.
And you've never seen him before.
If the Pacifier was made today, it would have its own Twitter account. And I just feel like something was lost. And I wanted to share that with you.
Mama.
Oh, my son.
I thought I lost you, Mama. I thought I'd never see you again.
Oh, Billy. Life is full of unexpected things. Some make you cheerful, and some break your heart.
I wasn't there when you needed me. I ran out on you.
It hurts so much, Billy. It felt like my heart was being ripped out of my chest when you left. But all hardship is temporary. Do you know this? Most of it is inevitable. I had to stay behind so that you could leave. And now you're the one in trouble. Do not worry for me. My troubles are over, my son.
I don't want to go back out there. I can't do this anymore.
You are strong, Billy. We are survivors, you and I. We keep fighting even when we do not know how. You cannot help but be my son.
I'm having twins, Mama. They're not born yet. I want to see them. I wanted you to see them. I miss you.
We will be together soon.